We are scouting the mock drafts once again on this episode of Locked On 49ers in preparation for the 2023 NFL Draft. Did Dane Brugler of The Athletic nail some of the 49ers selections this weekend we're within a week of the NFL Draft? I can't wait. More prospects coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. That makes Eric Crocker dance if you're watching this on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/NFL60 and use code NFL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Okay, Croc, we got more prospects to dive into, and a little teaser for later in this podcast because I think you uncovered a super sleeper for the San Francisco 49ers as only Eric Crocker, the DB specialist, can do. But we're going to
I did it on accident too. Did it on accident. It wasn't the guy I was looking for.
Yeah. That's when the best things happen. You go to watch who was the prospect? I can't remember who it was. They went to go watch I think his name was Garrett Cross, which is a tight end out of Butte College. Cal did, and they saw Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, wow.
Or they went to see Aaron Rodgers and they saw Garrett Cross and brought him over to the tight end. I can't remember how. Okay. I think they actually went to see Aaron Rodgers and found Garrett Cross and brought him along. I think there's a similar story with Dwight Clark too back in the day. Like he wasn't the guy they went to look at. He was the receiver catching passes for a quarterback, and they found him that way. So fun accidents can happen, and dudes are ballers, and that's why they're playing D1 football. So we're going to get to the defensive backs portion, specifically the duo at Purdue, momentarily. But first, I want to start with the first pick in Dane Brugler's 7-round mock draft. He always puts out the beast every year. He's become one of my favorite analysts as it pertains to the NFL draft. He does a great job. So much great information in the beast every single year. His first selection for the 49ers at pick 99 in his 7-round mock draft was Byron Young, who is an edge rusher out of Tennessee. And Croc, I know you haven't had a chance to watch him. You've been kind of diving deep into the corners, and I've been watching some of the other prospects, and sometimes we cross paths and both watch a prospect. But I want to explain a little bit about this prospect to you, Byron Young out of Tennessee. And I have a feeling he's someone that you are going to like. First of all, he's athletic. He's 6'2 3/8, 250 pounds, 4'4 flat, Croc, in the 40-yard dash. This is an edge prospect, 4'4 flat, 32.5-inch arms. So not the biggest prospect, a little bit older prospect. He's 25 years old. But he is super athletic and explosive, and it showed up on the track when he was working out, and it shows up on tape. But he is undersized, and there are some problems with that. There's a reason why he's going to go in the 3rd round and not the 1st round, even though he runs 4'4 at 250 pounds. So length is somewhat of a problem for him, and there's nothing he's going to be able to do about that. He's not going to get taller, and his arms aren't going to get longer. But he might get better, and this is why. This is the path. And Croc, you've talked before about your path to being a pro football player and, Arena Bowl champion, and now with me here at the pinnacle of your career on Locked On 49ers. But it started out weird for you, right? You went a lot of different directions in different colleges, and that's how it was for Byron Young. He started out in 2017. He went to Gulf Coast Sports Academy, which is now a defunct program, and I think it went defunct after his first year there. He needed to get his grades up to go play D1 football, and then
essentially probably a prep school. That's what that was.
It's a prep school thing, right? Exactly. And then that kind of program went defunct, and then he was just out of football in 2018. He was working at a dollar store, I think. And then in 2019, he found that love again and wanted to go play ball. So he went to Georgia Military College for 2 years, 2019 and 2020. Then he transferred to Tennessee. And by the way, the second season at that Georgia Military College, I mean, he had really bad luck in this path to the pros. There was the COVID season, so it was canceled. So, he practiced, but they didn't even play that season at Georgia Military College. So,
but Tennessee still took him.
Tennessee still took him, probably because he's 6'2" and ran 4.4, right? And I don't know how much he weighed at this point in time. But so he ends up at Tennessee in 2021 finally and has 5.5 sacks, led the team in tackles for loss with 11.5. And then in 2022, he had 7 more sacks last season and 12 tackles for loss. Again, led the team in sacks, and he was first team all SEC. So I just thought it was a really cool path that he took and multiple pitfalls and came through all of it and clearly had enough passion for the game to fight through all of that and make himself into a player at Tennessee.
That is definitely an older prospect. And between him and the quarterback, Hooker,
right.
Both of those guys, I think like 25 years
Hooker's
old.
even older. Hooker's 26. So this is what I talked about with Trey Lance. And if, a team say late first round, early second round, which is where Hendon Hooker's rumored to go, why a team would rather call the 49ers and offer that pick for Trey Lance. You get more years of team rookie contract control for Hendon Hooker, but Trey Lance is a better prospect coming out, better prospect right now. Trey Lance could go back to college, play 3 seasons, and still be younger than Hendon Hooker. Trey's still only 22. Hendon Hooker's going to be 26 as a rookie.
And not coming off of a torn ACL. Not coming off of an ankle injury, yes, but not an ACL.
Ankle better than ACL, right. And he's been coached up in a pro offense where, they were running something very different at Tennessee for Hendon Hooker. But still a good prospect. But back to Byron Young, super athletic. But and after he went to the combine and blew it up, 6'2 3/4, 6'2.5 at his pro day. So depending on how they measure, it's funny how the measurements are different at the combine and pro day, even though that's something that's not going to change. But essentially 6'2.5, 250, 32.5-inch arms, which is not long for an edge rusher. But the 4.4 flat 40, 38 vertical, 11-foot broad jump, pretty good. 7.193 cone isn't amazing. Especially for a super athletic player, but it's not terrible for an edge rusher either. Pretty good time, but you do see him sort of lose his footing. You see the athleticism immediately when you see him run and take off. He can chase people down. He's explosive out of his stance, but he kind of tries to turn the corner with that speed, and he can get to the edge, but sometimes his feet kind of slip out. So maybe needs to work on that ankle flexibility and get a little better with that bend coming around the edge. And I watched the game with him versus Alabama, and Tyler Steen's a tackle prospect we talked about, who also has shorter arms for a tackle, and he wasn't able to outreach Steen with his pass rushes, even though I did see Steen get outreached in that game and saw some of his length problems, which is why he might be a guard in the NFL. But overall, pretty good prospect for the third round with his athleticism. And even though he's an older prospect at 25, I think there might be still some upside and some development to happen for him at the pro level.
So immediately, once you started kind of saying his measurables, 6'2", almost 6'3", 250, ran really fast, a certain edge rusher came to mind. A specific guy that not only played for Kansas City Chiefs, but also the 49ers. And he goes by the name of D Ford. So I looked up D Ford's numbers, and very similar, some of them. 6'2", 252-pound edge rusher, not the biggest guy. Sub 33-inch arm length. Right now, he's closer to 33 than the guy we're talking about, Byron, but 32 7/8. So almost
under 33.
Right now, 40-yard dash, Byron got him. Bench press, I'm not sure if you said what his bench press reps was, but
it was 22 reps on the bench. Okay,
so he's not as strong as D Ford, and I wonder if that's something that might make somewhat of a difference in the sense of just pure strength, right? Especially for someone being that light. But overall, I mean, you're taking this guy and he's projected to go third round, maybe fourth round, and you have 3 picks. I think this is the type of guy that you kind of take a chance on that just has super high upside in the sense of just being a speed rusher. And I think that's kind of what 49ers are missing. A lot of what we've talked about with the 49ers and their edge rushers, big guys. They could fit probably a 3-4 in, but also play 4-3 in if need be. They're probably a little bit more stout versus the run than the guy that's going to be really speedy and bend that corner. And even with Drake Jackson, there's been a lot of reshaping going on with his body from his USC days to even, now with the 49ers trying to figure out how exactly we're going to use him, but we want him to be stronger, but he's going to be a speed rusher. So you look at a guy like Byron, and it's just like, well, you are a speed rusher. We just want to draft you. You don't have to be in there on running downs, as with like D4. D4 didn't have to be in there on running downs, but when we want you to get back there and pin your ears back and get to the quarterback, we need somebody with that type of speed, and especially if he has some bend to do that. So I think that's someone that could be valuable, especially that late in the third round.
Yeah, and so where does he fall in if we're using ex-49ers as the comparisons here, where does he fall in the range of D Ford and you remember Eli Harold, right? Who could not turn the corner at all. But was a pretty athletic guy. I think Eli Harold might have been a little bigger, stronger, and better against the run, but sort of stand-up rusher types. And Eli Harold could never get to the quarterback. I think Young can get to the quarterback just because he's really athletic, and especially in the 49ers scheme, they can create some looks where he's looping under, and he doesn't have to beat necessarily long tackles one-on-one. He can come off the wide nine, way wide, and for sure early in his career, he'll be a situational rusher. But if he's a good situational rusher and can do what Samson Ebukam did, 5-7 sacks, this is what he did at Tennessee. I mean, that's good production for a third-round player, even if he's only a rotational guy like that. And who knows, maybe there's a little more, but he's not going to be good at the run game early in his career. And how much he can develop pass rush moves will be key if he can unlock that athleticism and really become a player. But it's worth the swing, I think, for the 49ers late in that third-round area if he's still there for them.
What's the edge rusher's name that he was drafted by Denver Broncos? It didn't quite work out. It was almost like they couldn't figure out where to put him. Then he went to Tampa Bay and just had a bunch of sacks.
Yes. Yeah. Shorter, like 6'2". That was, oh gosh. I
can't think of his name either.
Shaq Barrett?
Yeah, there we go.
Shaq Barrett.
I wanted to kind of look at some of his Shaquille Barrett and just kind of look at some of his combine, performances, some of his numbers, and see what those look like to kind of compare, because that was the thing with him. He coming out, he wasn't a guy that was just like, oh man, like he's just this all around player, but then he just kind of ended up going crazy in the NFL. So he's actually 6'1", 260 pounds. But let me see if I can see some pro day numbers, because they don't have anything on him at all from the combine aside from him being measured.
You know what, Croc? While you look for those pro day numbers, I want to talk about Built Bar. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about that, some more of the prospects in Brugler's 7-round mock draft, and the sleeper cornerback that Eric Crocker unearthed that could be a real nice fit for the San Francisco 49ers. Next. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar, and at Built Bar, something exciting is coming at Built.com on April 22nd. I don't have all the details yet. It is a very locked up situation. It is a secret situation, but the excitement is real. We've been arguing about it in the Locked On DMs. What flavor is coming? Is it a new bar? What is going to happen here? It sounds like there's going to be some big reveal at Built.com, something you don't want to miss. If you know how Built works, they have the most incredible protein bars, high in protein, low in calorie, low in sugar. They're healthy and they are delicious. And they do these amazing flavor drops with unreal flavors in limited quantities. So mark your calendars and head to Built.com this Saturday, April 22nd, to be one of the first to discover what all the hype is about. I can't wait to see what this new flavor is. Make sure you use promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com and you'll get 15% off your order. Okay, Croc, what were the workout numbers for Shaq Barrett coming out?
Not great. The one area that he did excel at was his 3-cone. He had a 6.9, so that's good. And maybe that helps him kind of bend that corner.
Yep.
But everything else wasn't very explosive. 29-inch vertical jump, almost a 9-foot flat broad jump. I mean, that's as low as it gets. Pretty bad across the board. Even 40-yard dash, 4.73. So not as bursty or speedy, as some of these other guys. It doesn't look like the most body beautiful guy, as you like to say, 6'1", and his weight was as pro day 251 pounds. So
it is funny I say that about some guys that that have 10 times better beach body than I do, but like when you see him in a football uniform, it's maybe not what you want a first round pick to look like.
Yeah, and I think this is why Shaquille Barrett probably wasn't a first round pick. And bench press, 16 reps on the bench press.
Interesting. So he must have been just an all technique guy, getting some leverage and some flexibility around the corner.
I don't know what he was, to be honest. And I think he just went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just started going crazy.
Yeah, but
the Broncos clearly didn't know what he was either.
Scheme's important. I like the wide 9 for Byron Young. So it'd be interesting if he does end up a 49er. Just send him out wide on third downs and let him use that speed to get after the quarterback and chase those, ever increasingly athletic running backs around in the NFL. Maybe do some off-ball stuff a little bit, but he doesn't look like he's great off-ball. I think he's pretty raw though. I think there might be more there, and he is so athletic, it's definitely worth a shot. Another super athletic prospect, Croc, that has even more length. In fact, this is a cornerback that's taller and longer than Byron Young, and that is Cory Trice out of Purdue, which is the second pick for the 49ers here in Dane Brugler's mock draft. We're not going to get in depth with every pick here, but just we're going to point out a few of them. What did you see on tape from Cory Trice at Purdue? I have some ideas, but I want to hear your expert opinion first.
All right, so a couple of things that jumped out to me right away was clearly he's more of a boundary corner, and that was how they played him. It's not a guy that they wanted to play to the field where, you get to see a lot of, off coverage, concepts play out. That wasn't what they were interested with him, or at least how they wanted to utilize him. They wanted to put him at the line of scrimmage, to the boundary, not a whole lot of space, use your physicality. And I thought he used the physicality at the line of scrimmage. He was really patient. And I thought he also used the physicality in the run game and run support. So one of my notes here is, where's it at? Will get dirty. And all that means is he's not afraid at all to throw his body around, whether there's a group of people. Because one thing with cornerbacks, and I might be guilty of this as well, you'll try to find the angle to where you don't have to take on the brunt of the contact. And he didn't care about any of that. He was just going to fly in there and try to make tackle. Now, how well can he just purely cover? I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out. And especially one of the games I was watching, he knocked himself out of the game. And then that was how I ended up seeing another guy that I ended up kind of liking. But yeah, not a whole lot to really go off of with Trice from the games I watched.
It's interesting, and I felt similar about his cover ability. You like him in press. I don't know if he's loose enough athletically, but the testing numbers were great. It would make you think he could be someone who could maybe even be a little bit more like Charvarius Ward in a longer corner that could button guys down pretty well in man coverage and play in zone as well. But I could see teams running the cover 3. I could see the Seattle Seahawks liking him a lot. He's got that length. He's 6'3". He's over 6'3", 6'3 and 3/8, 206 pounds, 32 and 3/8 inch arms. So nice length there. He ran a 4.47 at the combine. But here's what really stood out to me. He had a 35.5 inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump. Here's what stood out to me, though. He didn't do his agilities at the combine. At his pro day, he ran a 4.06 short shuttle and a 6.70 3 cone, which are both blazing.
That's really good, especially for a guy with so much size.
And my question for you, Croc, was, do you see a player that you would want to try at corner first, maybe move straight to safety? Because he did play safety early in his career. He was recruited as a safety, redshirted, and then after a sophomore year, he went from safety to cornerback. And I liked him at corner. But I almost see, because there's so few free safeties in this class, he might be a guy that has that range, has some athleticism to come down and cover tight ends, and it could come down and do some of those things, but has some range that could play in the deep middle of the field and is not afraid to tackle and has some experience playing safety. So he's an interesting player where you could try him at corner, and if you don't like him, move him to safety, or just play him at safety right away, or just play him fully at corner. And the question is he worth a 3rd round pick? Did you see enough upside there? Do you see enough that you like that you would think that it's a good pick for the 49ers in round 3?
Well, you talked about him potentially playing safety. And one thing that you left off, and it's kind of hard to tell, especially when you have a guy that's aggressive and plays so, close to the line of scrimmage most of the time, is how smart is he on the field? Because safeties, like that's the big part. I remember the New York Jets, during my workout, they asked me, can you play safety? And I had literally, for someone who is, technically a bigger corner, I had never in my life lined up at safety. And I said, hey, whatever y'all need me to do, I will do it, right? And this is before they signed me. Well, once we reported and you start going over the playbook, I'm looking at like the safety is literally the quarterback of the defense. They have to get everybody set, the strengths. And then, there was just so much. And I'm like, there's no way. Leave me on the outside where I have a few different coverages, a few different adjustments. Cool. The safety literally has to know what everybody's doing at every level. They have so much more responsibility. They're blitzing. They're, disguising. They're doing all these different things, rolling. Got to understand, okay, you got the safety to this side to do this, or the tight end. I said, okay, no way. So that's one thing you have to know with him, where, okay, he has the athletic profile. Can he make that switch to safety from a mental standpoint? And we have seen guys do that. Malcolm Jenkins, I mean, did he even play cornerback at all in the NFL? Maybe early on he was drafted to kind of play corner, but they made that switch to safety almost immediately. So that's a guy he can kind of take after Malcolm Jenkins with doing something like that as quick. We've seen guys get older and then are, Champ Bailey, go play safety. Charles Woodson, go play safety. Charles Woodson had a lot of gas still in tank, but we've seen that. Rod Woodson, go play safety. But rarely do you see a guy do it right away. And Malcolm Jenkins was a guy who did it right away and excelled and played a lot of years in the NFL.
And then the question would be, he was already at safety. Why did they move him from safety to corner? Was he not good with the mental stuff? And there's like, all right, you're an athlete, go play corner.
Right.
So interesting question there. Just as a straight up corner, how much did you like Trice?
I mean, I liked him. I didn't see anything that I did not like. Like, a lot of times I'll see it. Like, the more I watched the kid out of South Carolina, number 28.
Yeah, Rush. Yeah, Rush. You didn't like Rush.
The more I watched him, I'm like, there's a lot, that he's kind of leaving on the bone there from a movement skill standpoint. But with Trice, I didn't quite have those type of issues. So again, in this round, especially corners, if he had everything, he wouldn't be a third round pick.
Right. Because you're 6'3", run 4.47. But those agilities make me think that, yeah, he has a chance to stick a corner. And, and if it doesn't work out, maybe he's got a chance at safety as well. So I do like Trice. I think that late third round area is probably about right for him.
And think about it like this, especially with that type of length. Ahkello Witherspoon with more natural physicality.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Witherspoon tested very well. He actually moved very well. He had really good feet. His biggest issue was, just the how dirty do I really want to get?
I don't remember what Witherspoon weighed. I remember him being tall and long, but
200.
Was it 200 pounds?
198 to 200 pounds. Like you could see.
I would have guessed he was
some you see 198. Some you see 200.
Slim.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was built. Some people, and I've been one of those people where I can be 200 pounds and I don't quite look 200 from, like, I guess kind of now I do, but when I was younger, I still looked thin. I think Ahkello Witherspoon is kind of built like that. Where I see some of my buddies, they'll be the same weight, but they're all just all hub and swollen. I'm like, bro, how do you do that?
All right, next Croc's sleeper that he found accidentally while watching Trice. What about Trice's teammate? How about bringing them both into the San Francisco 49ers organization? Sleeper time next, and some more notes on Dane Brugler's 7-round 49ers mock draft next. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. And I've got something special for the everydayers. The Locked On NFL mock draft special has been released. It's here and bigger than ever. Follow along all 32 teams' first picks in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience only Locked On can deliver. Myself and Matt Williamson have been hosting this for years and had a great time doing it this year. And we had a 3rd edition. Keith Sanchez of Locked On NFL Draft joining the anchor desk as well with Matt Williamson and myself. You can find all the episodes available now on the Locked On NFL Draft YouTube, on Locked On NFL YouTube, but more importantly, and you should already be subscribed to the brand new Peacock and Williamson NFL Show YouTube channel. Go subscribe to that now, or go check out the audio feed of Peacock and Williamson. You can find all the episodes of the Locked On NFL mock draft special for 2023, including episode 6, which features my guy Eric Crocker making the pick for the San Francisco 49ers. So check out the mock draft special at Peacock and Williamson and make sure you're subscribed up there. So while you were watching Trice, another player, Croc, caught your eye, right? In that Purdue defensive backfield. So tell me about this prospect, and then I'm going to drop the testing numbers on you.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know anything about the testing numbers or his height. I just know he looked smaller, so I'm aware of that. His name is Reese Taylor. I thought he was physical. I thought he had good feet. The change of direction was really there. And immediately I'm watching him, and he comes in for Trice, and I'm like, okay, he's a little on the smaller side, but, man, there's a lot to like there. He just feels like a nickel corner, a guy that plays in the slot. I actually posted a clip of him playing through the hands with just a great arm bar, spiking that ball out of there. And you saw the physicality. And there were a few other times I saw him do some really good things in the red zone. And I was watching one corner, I want to say Asante Samuel. At some point at Florida State, he was an outside corner, but then they would either take him off the field in the red zone or kind of move him around. And then you watch some other games and you see him in there all the time. But anyways, Taylor played in the red zone for a guy who did not look big on film. And I thought he held his own and showed really good technique and, again, a lot of ability. So I ended up, I was watching Trice. Trice went out, and I just didn't know where he went because I'm watching all 22, and there's no one to tell me that this guy had an injury. But then Taylor came in. I thought he looked good. I found another game with him playing outside at cornerback, and I thought I saw a lot of the same things. Quick-footed, good change of direction, not out of position. Didn't see his size be that much of an issue out there. And here's a guy just kind of took note of and said, hey, this is someone I probably should pay attention to. But I always tell you, I don't look at the numbers most of the time, especially on guys we're watching. I kind of just want the film to tell me who this guy is. But let me know some of the numbers so that I can try to figure out what his upside might be.
Yeah, so you pretty much nailed it from a testing standpoint, and he's so far down the list in the rankings here. I'm looking at Dane Brugler's Beast right now. He's ranked 54th as cornerbacks in this class. So we're talking, if undrafted free agent territory here. Reese Taylor from Purdue, 5'9.5", 188. He ran a 4.45 40, so all good there. And the size, he's more of a nickel-sized corner, but it's not prohibitive to playing in the NFL at 5'9.5", 180.
Reminds me of Aaron Berry. Aaron Berry came into the NFL, was good with Detroit Lions, got in a big issue with like a DUI. He ended up being with the Jets. I was on the Jets with Aaron Berry where he tore his ACL in training camp. But I just remember how feisty and how physical he was. And he wasn't the biggest of guys. He was about 5'9", 188 pounds.
And you said he had a nice change of direction too, right? Well, first of all, his explosive numbers, 38.5-inch vertical, nice. 10.4 broad jump, which is good, 12 reps in the bench press, which is solid for a smaller guy.
Yeah, I could do more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. Of course, Croc can. But how about this? The agilities. Short shuttle 4.07 and 3-cone 6.63, which are both ridiculous times. And I think both of those are the fastest out of any of the DBs I'm seeing right now.
Wow. That's the type of guy I take a flyer on.
Mm-hmm.
How many picks do the 49ers have in the 6th and 7th round?
I think they have 4 7th rounders and, of course, an unlimited amount of undrafted free agent slots.
Those are the guys I feel like he's had to work so hard, and everybody's probably kind of put him on the back burner because he's not the biggest of guys. And trying to figure out where he fits in. It's like, well, can I play over this guy that's 6'3", 207 pounds with
literally in the shadow of Cory Trice,
right, and whoever else they had. So he kind of had to wait his turn. But when he came in, again, I thought he took advantage of the opportunity. And then you hear those type of testing numbers, and watch him be a guy that just comes in and just got kind of hangs around the NFL for a little bit.
Looking at some more prospects here from the 7-round mock draft from Dane Brugler of The Athletic. He had the third round pick was Marte Mapu, a linebacker / safety out of Sac State. And Brugler's higher or as high on Marte Mapu as anybody out of Sac State. I like Marte Mapu. I think he's more 5th round range for the 49ers than 3rd round range for the 49ers, just because his resume. I don't think it fits. First of all, he's kind of a tweener. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. So he played a lot of safety, kind of the overhang. He was sort of like the Kirkland brand Fred Warner with the way he was used in college, right? Kind of overhang safety type of stuff, bigger safety. And he has a lot of similarities to Fred Warner, the way he plays and his athleticism, but there's no testing numbers. So when you go to, like, Fred Warner was a 3rd round pick and he went to BYU and had great testing numbers, right? So Marte Mapu was a last minute call to the Senior Bowl, which helped him. And he's really good at the Senior Bowl. And I think a lot of people do like him. And you hear Jim Nagy, he talks up all the Senior Bowl guys, but he was talking about Mapu as the highest drafted guy who didn't get invited to the combine. But Mapu didn't get invited to the combine, so he didn't get to meet with teams there. The 49ers did bring him in to meet him. That might be just because their scouting report was incomplete, but it might be because they really love him. But you went to Sac State, so he's smaller school guy. He's a tweener. Didn't go to the combine, and then he tore his pec, and so he hasn't been able to work out at all. So there's no testing numbers. So you have an undersized guy from a small school with no testing numbers. I don't see how that adds up to a player being drafted at 2 positions, whether it's linebacker or or safety that are not premier positions in the NFL, I have a hard time believing he's going to go in the third round. As much as you might like his tape, it's just too hard to project everything for Marte Mapu. And I would love it if 49ers drafted him in round 5. I do feel like, though, it's a little high in round 3, but I like the way he plays. He plays like a small linebacker. I think you stick him at linebacker from day one in the NFL, just like Fred Warner was. He could probably help you out as a rookie on special teams, and much like Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, and then work your way into the lineup there. And I do like Marte Mapu. Third round, a little much for me, but a really active, athletic linebacker, can cover tight ends, do all the things you would want an outside linebacker to do in today's modern NFL.
When I think of Sac State's defense, and I watched them especially down the stretch because they were really good, one of the top schools in the nation. Matter of fact, I always wondered, why isn't Sac State just better? But finally, they're better. Than now their coach left to Stanford, so we'll see if they start to kind of go backwards again. But he was part of a defense that led up 60 points in that playoff game. I think it might have been the semifinals. And I'm not going to put all that on him. I don't know how much he had to contribute to that, but that ain't too good. I do want to dive into him as a prospect because I hear a lot about him. I have kids that I train that are currently at Sac State that I can call and ask kind of, a little bit more on the personal side, off the record. Hey man, how is it? How's his work ethic? How was he on the field? What kind of tenacity did he bring? I will say this: a lot of those guys that are more like Polynesian, they all kind of carry themselves a very similar way. And if he's anything like any of the Polynesian guys that I played with, then he's probably not a guy you have anything to worry about.
Cameron Latu, we've talked about previously on the podcast, tight end out of Alabama, sort of an undersized, detached tight end, but a nice fit, I think, in the 5th round for the 49ers. I think that's right about the right spot for him. Croc, do you recall the tape for Cameron Latu?
Yeah, legit pass-catching tight end. He was very fluid, but like you said, a little bit more undersized. And that's the one thing I worry about with the San Francisco 49ers. How much physicality are they going to ask out of a guy who wasn't asked to really do a whole lot of that at Alabama? But I did think he was well-rounded. It's just, just being a legit hand in the dirt. Okay, I'm going to drive this guy 5 yards off the ball. And again, I think sometimes with some of these things, you can be spoiled by a player that you watch. And maybe, you shouldn't have the standard as George Kittle. That tight end.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of unfair comparing Mapu to Fred Warner too.
Right. The unfortunate thing is the way that the 49ers have built their team. And there are a lot of people that talk about physicality, but the 49ers not only talk about being physical, matter of fact, they don't even talk about it. Everybody just knows. When you play the 49ers, this is what they're going to bring. And to live up that standard, you have to continue to find guys that's the way that they're wired. And it's tough, when you see a receiver who is a little bit more finesse on that side of things. How does he fit in with the culture of the 49ers? But again, we're talking about late picks where, especially at this point with where the 49ers are with their roster building, how much of these guys do you expect to just make the team, right? We're not talking about a, 3rd round tight end who is okay, we're drafting this guy. He's, 90% making this team, 90% sure.
Future starter.
Right. When you start getting late like this, you might as well be an undrafted free agent where maybe you make it, maybe you're not. And there's really a 50-50 chance, and actually leaning more towards not making it.
Yeah. And 49ers have had that in recent years, guys that they drafted and didn't make the roster. They had a 3rd round running back, didn't make the roster in the 2nd year. Last year was Tariq Castro-Field, 6th round pick, didn't make the roster. And it's do the 49ers want the closest thing they can get to what they already have, or do they want something very different? Do they want a more detached tight end? Do they want a guy that can play a little H-back? Do they want a guy who's a better blocker and they're not worried about how good of a receiver he is? So those are questions I think we'll find out on draft day. Demario Davis out of Liberty, wide receiver that is small but very fast. He is 5'8", 179 pounds, 4.4 speed, really quick. I don't know if he's a Kyle Shanahan type, and they already drafted some speed last year, but Demario Douglas is fun to watch. He made a lot of big plays last year with Malik Willis as his quarterback. He was 1,000 yard. I think he's 1,200-yard receiver, I think, is the number one guy there for Malik Willis last year. Looking at the rest of this mock draft here, a couple more names. Chad Ryland, Maryland kicker. We see a lot of mock drafts for the 49ers that have Jake Moody out of Michigan at kicker. So we got another kicker in this one. It's Chad Ryland out of Maryland. I know he's hit some field goals longer than 50 yards, and he's he can handle kickoff duty. So he's got a decent leg. That's all I know. And I'm definitely not diving into the tape on kickers, Croc. I don't think you are either. Stills, Dante Stills, defensive tackle from West Virginia, smaller tackle, kind of a Kerry hybrid type or Kerry Hyder type hybrid end tackle. He's only 285-pound defensive tackle. He is 6'3", 285. He doesn't look like he has the juice to play in the end. I don't know if he's going to hold up inside. He's kind of active, but he doesn't wow me with his athleticism even at 285. Some people really like Dante Stills. I watched him. I was like, yeah, okay. Try hard guy. We'll see what he can do in the NFL, but he didn't blow me away. And a few more picks here. Warren McClendon, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Ty Okada, safety from Montana State. Arquan Bush, corner from Cincinnati. And Justin Shorter, a wide receiver from Florida. So a couple wide receivers late, a little bit of everything. When you got that many picks, there's so many. And I didn't dive deep into them, but interesting draft there. 7th rounder from Dane Brugler. And the thing I've learned here with the 49ers is I don't know what to expect on draft day, because on paper, Croc, when you look at the 49ers draft, all these picks, talk about not everybody making the team. We said that last year, and it was a perfect opportunity, I thought, for them to move up, and they didn't. Ended up drafting running backs. I see him bringing in Zach Charbonnet for a 30 visit. They brought in Rashawn Johnson, Bijan Robinson's backup, for a 30 visit. They've been meeting with running backs. Are they going to do it again? Instead of trading up to go get one of these positions they need, they're going to draft another 3rd-round running back, Croc?
I might be done with them after that.
Because they didn't trade last year, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to. We'll see if they do this year.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And make sure you are subscribed up to Peacock and Williamson, both the video and audio versions of the Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special is live. So check that out on the Peacock and Williamson channel. Croc and I will talk to you next time right here, Locked On 49ers.